Wesley said, not even looking up from his laptop screen. Maybe we'll revisit it next performance cycle. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. 347 late nights, 128 weekend calls. Missing my son Michael's graduation ceremony last month because of Wesley's urgent client presentation, all for nothing. I'm Spencer Hayes, by the way, 49 years old, and until that moment, I thought I was the senior operations manager who'd finally earned his shot at the director role I'd been doing unofficially for 2 years. I don't understand, I managed to say, keeping my voice steady in Wesley's corner office. The cost reduction system I implemented saved the company $2.8 million last quarter. The Pinnacle Industries contract renewal came through because of the efficiency improvements I designed. Wesley finally looked up with that practiced MBA smile. Team effort, Spencer. Leadership is about more than technical skills. You need to develop your strategic thinking. This from a 37-year-old who'd been with the company for 18 months and still called our manufacturing processes by the wrong names. He slid a performance review across his desk. Meets expectations was checked in every category. Not a single exceeds, despite the fact that our department had its best year in company history. The executive team specifically mentioned the innovations in our quarterly report, I said. Absolutely. I made sure to highlight the team's contributions when I presented to the board last week. His emphasis on I presented wasn't lost on me. I nodded, took my copy of the review, and walked out. That conversation was exactly 7 months ago, and what happened next still feels surreal. Back at my desk, I stared at my computer screen showing the latest efficiency metrics. Numbers that proved my systems were working. Numbers that Wesley would present as his own next week, just like he had with every major improvement I'd implemented since he became department head. You okay, Spencer? Brandon Mills rolled his chair over. Brandon was one of our younger engineers, fresh out of college but sharp. He'd been watching the politics play out with the keen eyes of someone who hadn't been worn down by years of corporate nonsense yet. Fine. Just tired, I said. The promotion? Next cycle, apparently. Brandon shook his head. Man, that's brutal. Everyone knows you've been running this department since Wesley showed up. The guy can barely read an engineering spec. I turned back to my screen, but Brandon's words stuck. That night, instead of staying late like usual, I left at 5:30. For the first time in months, I made it home before 8 p.m. My wife Helen was grading papers at the kitchen table when I walked in. She looked up, surprised. You're home early? Everything okay? Got passed over again? I said, grabbing a beer from the fridge. She set down her red pen. After 22 years of marriage, she could read my moods pretty well. What was his excuse this time? Strategic thinking, need more development. The man who can't tell a torque wrench from a socket set is questioning your strategic thinking. Helen's teacher voice came out when she was angry. Spencer, you've been running that department since before he showed up. That's when something clicked. Helen was right. I had been running the department. The question was, did anyone else know it? Our daughter Sarah called while we were eating dinner. She was in her senior year at State, majoring in engineering like her old man. Hey Dad, how'd the review go? I'd mentioned the promotion possibility to her a few weeks back. Not this time, sweetheart. What? That's insane. You basically designed half the systems they're using. It's complicated, Sarah. No, it's not. It's politics, Dad. You need to document everything. Trust me, my business law professor talks about this stuff all the time. Paper trail is everything. After we hung up, I sat there thinking about what she'd said. Document everything. My 21-year-old daughter was giving me career advice. And she was absolutely right. The next morning, I arrived at my usual 7 a.m. and opened a new spreadsheet. If Wesley wanted to play politics, I'd document everything. Every project I completed, every system I designed, every client call I handled while he was in his endless meetings. What I found over the next 2 weeks surprised even me. In the past year, I'd personally managed 73% of our major projects. I'd handled direct communication with 8 of our 10 biggest clients. And most importantly, those clients had started reaching out to me directly instead of going through Wesley. The breakthrough came when Alan Foster from Pinnacle Industries called my direct line on a Tuesday morning. Spencer, I wanted to thank you personally for the modifications to the delivery schedule. Your team's flexibility saved us from a major production delay. I appreciate that, Alan, but you should know that Wesley oversees Spencer. Alan interrupted. We both know who's actually making things happen over there. Listen, I've got a proposition for you. Any chance we could set up a private meeting next week? I hesitated. Meeting with clients outside company channels wasn't exactly standard protocol, but Alan had been working with me for 3 years. We had a professional relationship built on trust and results. What kind of proposition? The kind better discussed over coffee. You free Thursday morning? That call changed everything. Alan explained that Pinnacle was expanding their operations and needed an experienced operations consultant, someone who understood their systems and could hit the ground running. We've watched how you handle our account, Alan said over coffee at a diner halfway between our offices. Your attention to detail, your problem-solving approach. That's what we need. I appreciate the offer, but I should mention I'm not currently looking. A $155,000 base plus consulting fees for special projects, full benefits. And Spencer, you'd be working directly with our engineering team, not through some middle manager who doesn't understand the technical side. I nearly choked on my coffee. It was a 40% increase over my current salary and the respect I'd been missing for 2 years. I'd need to give proper notice, I said. Of course. Take your time to think it over. But I'd already made up my mind. When I got back to the office, I did something I'd never done before. I started copying my engineering specifications, client communications, and system documentation to my personal files. Not stealing company property, just documenting my own contributions. Over the next week, I quietly reached out to 3 other clients who'd expressed appreciation for my work over the years. Marcus Foster at Industrial Solutions, Jennifer Walsh at Metro Manufacturing, and Todd Peterson at Coastal Engineering. All 3 were interested in consulting arrangements. Suddenly, I wasn't just looking at one job offer, I was looking at the foundation for my own consulting practice. The following Monday, I requested a meeting with our HR director, Diana Wells. I'd known Diana for 12 years, and she'd always been straight with me. This is unusual, Spencer. You've never requested an HR meeting before. I wanted to discuss some concerns about management practices, I said, setting my documentation folder on her desk. I'm submitting my resignation today, and I thought the company should understand why. For the next 45 minutes, I walked Diana through my records. The projects Wesley claimed credit for. The client relationships he'd taken credit for building. The safety improvements he'd presented to the board as his own innovations. Spencer, this is extensive, Diana finally said, flipping through printed emails. Have you discussed these concerns with Wesley directly? The power dynamic makes that difficult, I replied. Diana, I've got 26 years with this company. I've trained half the engineers in our department. I deserve better than having my work presented as someone else's strategic vision. She nodded slowly. I wish you'd come to us sooner. Where are you going? Pinnacle Industries has offered me a consulting position, and I suspect other clients will follow. Her eyebrows shot up. Pinnacle, but they're one of our biggest accounts. They called me Diana. Apparently they know who's been handling their projects all along. When I returned to my desk, Wesley was there, scrolling through his phone. Where were you? I need the Morrison Industries proposal revised before the 2 p.m. call. I had a meeting with HR. I said calmly, I submitted my resignation. My last day will be in 2 weeks. The phone slipped from his hands. Resignation? This is completely unexpected. We've invested so much in your development. The nerve of that statement almost made me laugh. Yes, well, Pinnacle Industries has offered me a position I can't refuse. Pinnacle, but they're about to renew their contract with us. How did you even connect with them? They called me directly. Apparently you told them I was the point person for their technical requirements. Wesley's face went pale. For once, his MBA training hadn't prepared him for this scenario. This is highly irregular, Spencer. Consulting with our clients creates conflict of interest issues. I won't be consulting with your clients, I said. I'll be working with companies that value 26 years of engineering experience. Brandon Mills had been pretending to work at his desk, but I could tell he was listening. After Wesley stormed off, Brandon came over. Holy shit, Spencer. You're really doing it. Language, I said, but I was smiling. Sorry. But seriously, good for you. Wesley's been taking credit for everything you do. We all see it. What we see and what we can prove are different things, I said. But I've got documentation now. That afternoon, Wesley called me into the conference room. He looked panicked, his usual confident demeanor completely gone. Spencer, let's be reasonable here. Maybe I was hasty about the promotion timeline. We could fast-track your director review. It's too late for that, Wesley. What would it take? Name your price. I looked at him across the table. This man who'd taken credit for my innovations, who'd presented my work as his strategic vision. who'd made me miss my son's graduation for a presentation I wrote, but he delivered. It's not about money. I said it's about respect. Something you can't buy or fast track. He tried a different approach. Think about the team, Spencer. They depend on your expertise. You'd be abandoning them. The team will be fine. They're good engineers. What they need is leadership that recognizes their contributions, not someone who takes credit for their work. Wesley's desperation was almost pitiful. The Pinnacle account alone is worth $3.2 million annually. If they follow you, it could seriously damage the company. Then maybe the company should have thought about that before letting you take credit for other people's work for 18 months. 2 days later, Diana Wells called Wesley and me into her office along with our CEO, Ronald Fisher. I'd known Ron for 15 years, since back when he was head of operations. Spencer's brought some concerns to our attention. Diana began. Concerns about project attribution and management practices. I presented my documentation one more time. Client emails praising work they thought Wesley had done personally. Engineering logs showing when systems were actually designed versus when they were presented. Meeting notes proving I'd been the primary client contact for months. Most importantly, I concluded 4 major clients have made it clear they want to continue working with me personally. 3 have offered consulting contracts. The room fell silent. Ronald Fisher's expression grew increasingly grim as I talked. Wesley, Ron said finally, the client emails are pretty clear. These aren't team achievements. They're specifically praising Spencer's individual contributions. Wesley stammered something about team leadership and strategic oversight, but Ron cut him off. Spencer, he said, turning to me, would you give us a moment to discuss this privately? I nodded and walked out. I sat in the lobby for 20 minutes, watching people come and go. Employees I'd worked with for years, some I'd trained personally. Part of me felt guilty for potentially disrupting their work environment. But then I remembered the 347 late nights, the missed family dinners, the presentations I'd written that Wesley delivered to standing ovations. Diana called me back in. Spencer, I want to apologize personally, Ron began. What happened here goes against everything we claim to value as a company. I appreciate that, Ron. Wesley is no longer with the company, effective immediately. I'd like to offer you his position, department head, $165,000 base, plus the bonus structure he was getting 6 months ago. I would have jumped at this offer. Now it felt hollow. I appreciate the gesture, Ron, but I've already accepted the Pinnacle position. And to be honest, I've lost trust in how this company handles these situations. Ron looked disappointed, but not surprised. I understand. What about our client relationships? Pinnacle represents $3.2 million in annual revenue, and there it was, the real concern. Not my career development or workplace fairness, but the bottom line. That's between you and them, I said. But I suspect they'll make their own decisions about who they want to work with. 2 weeks later, I cleaned out my desk for the last time. Brandon Mills came over as I packed my personal items into a cardboard box. Taking anyone with you? He asked quietly. Send me your resume, I said. Pinnacle's expanding and they need experienced engineers. Word travels fast in engineering circles. By my second week at Pinnacle, I'd received calls from 6 different people at my old company. Some were congratulating me, others were asking about opportunities. The brain drain had begun. The morning after my last day at the old company, I woke up without an alarm for the first time in years. No phantom anxiety about reports due or emergency client calls. I actually made Helen breakfast before my first day at Pinnacle. At my new office, Alan Foster met me personally, not to show me off, but to introduce me to the engineering team I'd be leading. Spencer knows our systems better than anyone, he told them. He's here to help us build, not to manage for management's sake. My office had a window facing the manufacturing floor. I could watch the actual work being done, not just read reports about it. And when someone had a technical question, they came directly to me. No layers of MBAs translating engineering problems into business speak. Different world here, said Kevin Stone, who joined me from the old company as my deputy operations manager. Nobody's trying to take credit for your work. Kevin had been with our old company for 14 years. Watching him adapt to an environment where his expertise was valued instead of exploited reminded me why I'd made the right choice. 3 months in, the consulting side of my work was taking off faster than expected. Marcus Foster at Industrial Solutions had signed a 6-month contract for process optimization. Jennifer Walsh at Metro Manufacturing wanted help redesigning their quality control systems. Todd Peterson at Coastal Engineering was looking at a complete operational overhaul. "You're building something here," Helen said one evening as we sat on our back deck. "Not just a job, but something that could last." She was right. For the first time in years, I was thinking beyond the next quarterly report. I was planning systems and relationships that could sustain a career, not just survive corporate politics. Ron Fisher reached out through a mutual contact about 4 months after I'd left. Apparently, they'd like to discuss partnership opportunities between our companies. I politely declined the introduction. Some bridges aren't worth rebuilding. The foundation you build with integrity, that lasts forever. 6 months later, I was reviewing applications for a new senior engineer position when I recognized a name: Brandon Mills. He'd completed his first year at the old company and was ready for something better. "Spencer, I can't take it anymore," he said during our phone interview. They brought in some guy from their East Coast office to replace Wesley, but he's even worse. Takes credit for everything, micromanages every decision. "What's the final straw?" I asked. "I redesigned the quality control protocol for the Morrison Industries project. Saved them probably $400,000 in potential defects." The new guy presented it to the board last week as his initiative to optimize junior engineer contributions. I hired Brandon on the spot. By month 8, my old department had lost 40% of its experienced engineers. Not all to me, some went to other companies, others transferred to different divisions. But the pattern was clear. When good people stop believing in the system, they leave. I got the full story from Kevin during one of our weekly project reviews. "It's chaos over there," he said. "The new department head doesn't understand the technical side, so he's making decisions based on spreadsheets instead of engineering reality." "What about the clients?" 3 major contracts didn't renew. Pinnacle was just the beginning. Word gets around in this industry about who actually knows what they're doing. I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and sadness. Satisfaction that the truth had consequences. Sadness for the good engineers still trapped in that system. The most surprising call came on a Tuesday morning from Diana Wells. "Spencer, I hope you don't mind me reaching out directly." "Not at all, Diana. What's going on?" "We're conducting an internal review of management practices in the engineering division. Would you be willing to share your documentation and experience as part of our investigation?" I thought about it for a moment. "Diana, I documented everything for my own protection. But if it helps other people avoid what I went through, I'm happy to share. There are others, Spencer. What happened to you wasn't isolated." That conversation led to a formal investigation that resulted in policy changes around project attribution and performance reviews. Small victories, but meaningful ones for the people still working there. A year after leaving, I received a LinkedIn message from a young engineer at my old company. "Spencer, I'm dealing with something similar to what you went through. Any advice?" I told him what I wish someone had told me years ago. Document everything, build relationships outside your immediate chain of command, and remember that your skills have value beyond whatever box they try to put you in. But most importantly, I added, know when it's time to walk away. Your expertise is portable. Your reputation follows you. And sometimes the best career move isn't moving up, it's moving on. Last month, I attended Sarah's college graduation. Front row cheering when they called her name. She's starting her own engineering career with a company that values innovation over politics. Helen and I have dinner together every night now. I sleep in my own bed, not at my desk. The most valuable lesson from all this wasn't about workplace politics. It was about worth. About recognizing that no title should require you to sacrifice your professional dignity. That no company culture should diminish 26 years of expertise. When one of the young engineers at Pinnacle works late, I make sure it's noticed and appreciated, not exploited. There's a difference between dedication and desperation, and I learned it the hard way. My consulting practice has grown beyond what I imagined possible. What started as 4 client relationships has expanded to 12 companies across 3 states. I'm not just solving their immediate problems, I'm training their teams, building sustainable systems, creating value that outlasts any single project. "You're like a traveling professor," Helen said one evening, watching me prepare for a presentation to executives at Morrison Industries, teaching them what good engineering leadership actually looks like. She wasn't wrong. Half my consulting work involves helping companies recognize and develop their own internal talent, teaching them what I wish my old company had learned before it was too late. The ripple effects continue to surprise me. Last month, I received a call from Jennifer Walsh at Metro Manufacturing. "Spencer, we need to talk about something bigger than process optimization." Jennifer explained that Metro was acquiring a smaller company with significant operational challenges. They wanted me to lead the integration, not as a consultant, but as their new VP of operations. "We've watched how you work," she said. "You don't just fix problems, you build teams that prevent them. That's what we need for this expansion." The offer was tempting. 210,000 base salary, equity stake, complete autonomy over operations. But I'd learned to ask different questions now. "What's your management philosophy?" I asked. "How do you handle credit and accountability?" Jennifer laughed. "You want the honest answer? We steal shamelessly from the way you run projects. Clear attribution, shared success, zero tolerance for taking credit for other people's work." That conversation reminded me why I'd made the right choice leaving my old company. Not because of money or title, but because of values alignment. I'm 49 now, and my career is in a place I never expected. I work 45 hours a week by choice, not by corporate mandate. I have time to coach Michael's community league baseball team on weekends. Helen and I take real vacations, not the kind where you check emails from the beach. But the most satisfying part isn't the work-life balance. It's the respect. When I walk into a client meeting, people know I'm there because of what I can deliver, not because of political maneuvering or stolen credit. 3 months ago, I received an unexpected email from Wesley Parks. He'd found a new position at a mid-size firm in Denver and wanted to clear the air about our time working together. We met for coffee at a neutral location downtown. Wesley looked different, less polished, more genuine somehow. "I've had time to think about what happened," he said, "and I owe you an apology." I waited for the but that usually follows corporate apologies. "No excuses," he continued. "I was in over my head, and instead of asking for help, I took credit for your expertise. It was wrong and it cost both of us. Cost you too?" I asked. Getting fired that publicly destroyed my reputation in the industry. Took me 8 months to find another position, and even then, I had to take a 30% pay cut. I felt a brief moment of sympathy, then remembered the 347 late nights. "Wesley, I appreciate the apology. But the real damage wasn't to either of our careers. It was to the team members who watched it happen and learned that expertise doesn't matter as much as politics." He nodded slowly. "That's what I'm trying to change now." My new company, we're implementing attribution protocols for all major projects. Everyone gets credited for their contributions. "That's good to hear," I said, and I meant it. We shook hands when we left, but I doubt we'll speak again. Some relationships can't be rebuilt, only acknowledged and moved past. Last week, I got the most rewarding call of the year. Sarah, now 2 years into her engineering career, had been promoted to project lead at her company. "Dad, I used your documentation system," she said, excitement bubbling in her voice, every contribution tracked, every decision recorded. When the promotion review came up, I had everything documented, and I got the promotion based on merit, not politics. Plus, I recommended 2 of my teammates for advancement based on the work they'd actually done. That phone call reminded me why I'd fought so hard for recognition in the first place. Not just for myself, but for the principle that good work should be acknowledged and rewarded. The consulting practice continues to grow, but I'm selective now about client relationships. I only work with companies that demonstrate genuine commitment to fair attribution and employee development. Life's too short to repeat old mistakes. Next month, I'm launching a leadership workshop series focused on technical management. The target audience, experienced engineers moving into leadership roles. The goal, teaching them to build teams without sacrificing the people who make those teams successful. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't personal success, it's systemic change. It's making sure the next generation of engineers doesn't have to choose between career advancement and professional integrity. If you're reading this and recognizing your own Wesley, remember what my daughter taught me. Document everything, build relationships outside your immediate hierarchy, and know that your expertise has value beyond whatever title they're willing to give you. Your skills are portable, your reputation follows you, and sometimes the strongest move you can make is walking away with your dignity intact. The best career advice I can give after 26 years in engineering: don't just build systems, build relationships. Don't just solve problems, solve them in a way that lifts up the people around you, and never ever let someone else's insecurity diminish the value of your expertise. Because when you build your career on integrity instead of politics, success becomes sustainable, and respect, once earned honestly, it lasts forever. In the end, I learned that loyalty without reciprocity is just exploitation with better marketing. And the moment you realize that difference is the moment your real career begins. The greatest professional victory isn't climbing someone else's ladder faster. It's building your own foundation strong enough that others want to climb up and join you.